This is Gomo. This is $14.99 a month mobile for life. With Gomo, you get all calls, texts, all 5G data for just $14.99 a month. A guaranteed price for life. Switching is easy. Visit gomo.ie, sign up, and you are good to Gomo. Join Gomo, the award-winning mobile network. Unlimited data refers to domestic use only. 30-day contract applies. A once-off SIM activation fee of $14.99 applies. For full details, terms, roaming and text fair use, see gomo.ie.
It's as close to time travel as we're going to get. This Week in Music History with Marty Miller.
Hello there. My gosh, podcast people, this is a very busy week. We're looking at June 23rd until 27th. Elvis under the hammer in 2012 this week.
Die-hard Elvis fans can now bid on the King's Crypt.
And another king, the king of pop, gone this week in 2009.
Michael Jackson, 50 years old, the king of pop, has died.
And what sells in 2016 for way more than expected? Now, mind you, it was the same year the person involved died, so hence the frenzy.
We're expecting anything from $2,000 for it, and it ended up going for $18,750, which is an amazing price.
Zipping through a week in a matter of minutes. This Week in Music History, the podcast.
I'll be in and done within 10 minutes. 1966, the Beatles had their 10th consecutive number one single with Paperback Writer. Now, this was a funny old track because it was, I suppose, marked by the boosted bass guitar sound throughout. Why? Well, John Lennon was demanding to know why the bass on certain Wilson Pickett records was far more prominent than the bass on any Beatles records. So the result was... Back in 2010, at age 62, Greg Allman underwent a liver transplant. Allman said at the time, "I changed my ways years ago, but we can't turn back time. Every day is a gift." The gift of the new liver lasted another 7 years. Greg died in 2017.
I went through a long period of my life of drinking. I mean, serious drinking. I mean, I was drinking about a quart of vodka every day of my life. And if I didn't, I would get the delirium tremors, the DTs, and I mean, you'd have bugs crawling all over you, and it's some diabolical stuff to some people.
In 2023, Foo Fighters frontman Dave Grohl decided to take the train from London towards Somerset before a surprise show at the Glastonbury Festival.
History. A week in less than 10 minutes.
1999 this week, Eric Clapton put 100 of his guitars up for auction at Christie's in New York to raise money for his drug rehab clinic, the Crossroads Centre in Antigua. The auction helped raise £5 million for the clinic. This is Eric.
How can I justify hanging on to all this stuff? I'm not really, a curator of a museum. These things aren't on show. They're not for... I wasn't sharing them. They were just locked up. I had a problem with the fact that I couldn't play them all, and they were just gathering dust in a warehouse. So my initial reaction was, what a great, really relief from what a great idea.
More stuff for auction, 2012, but this one wasn't to be. The crypt in which Elvis Presley was first buried was withdrawn from an auction in LA after protests said it should be kept as a shrine.
Die-hard Elvis fans can now bid on the King's Crypt. This is where Elvis Presley was first laid to rest in 1977 before his body was buried at Graceland. And now it could be yours.
Billboard.com in 2012 named Olivia Newton-John's 1982 song Physical as the sexiest song of all time. Other songs that made the top 10 included Rod Stewart's Tonight's the Night, Marvin Gaye's Let's Get It On, Donna Summer's Hot Stuff, and Do You Think I'm Sexy from Rod. But remember, this is the sexiest song of all time.
Through a week in a matter of minutes. This Week in Music History, the podcast.
Quite incredible in 1967. 200 million people saw the Beatles perform All You Need Is Love live via satellite as part of a TV Global link-up. Our World, Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, Eric Clapton, Graham Nash and Keith Moon provided backing vocals on the track for the TV presentation.
And tonight, for the first time, we can see right round our world, from sunset to dawn, by television. Our world is circled by television. Television stations in 14 countries all round the world have joined up to make one program.
2009, Michael Jackson died at the age of 50 after suffering heart failure at his house. From the TV at that time,
Both the Los Angeles Times and CBS News are both now reporting that Michael Jackson has died. Now, CNN has not confirmed that, but the LA Times and CBS News are reporting that Michael Jackson, 50 years old, the king of pop, has died.
And in 2023 this week, Elton John played his last show in the UK at Glastonbury on his farewell Yellow Brick Road tour.
Zipping through a week in a matter of minutes. This Week in Music History, the podcast.
1977 this week, Elvis Presley made his last ever live stage appearance, appearing at the Market Square Arena in Indianapolis. Presley would be dead 6 weeks later. This is his performance from that time. In 2016, a lock of David Bowie's hair sold for 18, nearly 19 grand actually. It came from a former employee of Madame Tussauds in London who had used it to recreate Bowie's 1983 hairdo. Yep, for a waxwork.
She was able to take a sample, and she was such a massive David Bowie fan that she kept the lock of hair and was allowed to keep it. And she kept it from 1983 all the way up to now. She consigned it into the auction. We're expecting anything from $2,000 for it, and it ended up going for $18,750, which is an amazing price.
1970, the newly formed Queen featuring Freddie Mercury, probably still Freddie Bulsara at that stage. He was on vocals, guitarist Brian May, drummer Roger Taylor and Mike Gross on bass guitar. They played their first gig in Cornwall. They were billed as Smile, Brian and Roger's previous band. Did you know at that show they played a very early version of Stone Cold Crazy, which would end up on the Sheer Heart Attack album in 1974? And of course, Mike wouldn't end up on bass because John Deacon was waiting in the wings.
I used to follow sort of Smile a lot, you know. We were like friends. I used to go to their shows.
Well, Freddie sort of said, "No, look, dears, you must have me. Here I am.
We'd just seen him kind of pouncing around the place and being very outrageous and generally acting like a rock star even though he wasn't.
He sounded a bit like a sheep when we first met him.
Zipping through a week in a matter of minutes. This Week in Music History, the podcast.
Finally, in 2002, one day before the scheduled first show of the Who's 2002 tour, bass player John Entwistle died, aged 57, in his hotel room at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. Entwistle had gone to bed that night with a stripper. She woke up at 10 o'clock to find Entwistle cold and unresponsive. The Las Vegas medical examiner determined that death was due to a heart attack induced by a rather huge amount of cocaine. But the brilliance... That is a look at This Week in Music History. A lot going on there. From June 23rd until 27th.
Zipping through a week in a matter of minutes. This Week in Music History, the podcast.